You're having a good time on the couch with your friends. You're having a good time in the bed alone. You're having a good time watching TV. Let us ruin your day. Yay!
Welcome to Now It's Ruined, the podcast for people who hate enjoying things. I'm Kate Bridle.
And I'm Larkin Harrington.
And we are here together in person at my house. And we are both sick. I gave Larkin some kind of terrible cold that I've had for over a week now. I was like, oh, I don't have a second comfy chair in my office for you to sit in. And so I decided I was going to rig up a studio in my bed. So we're in my bed. We have tea. We have Dayquil. We have tissues. We have the Colin Hanks jar looking on from behind us.
We got it.
Sure. But it was nice before you got sick. We went into LA. We got to meet Will.
Yay.
That was lovely.
Finally.
It's my birthday tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year, everybody.
Hopefully this one's better than the last one. Unless the last one was great for you, then congratulations. But I feel like for most people it was shit.
Yeah.
But then the first day of the new year, it was sunny when it wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah, and it's sunny right now.
It is
supposed to have rained this whole time.
Yeah.
And I really hate that it's so gorgeous out right now. It's really bumming me out because I have no intention of going out on it.
Anyway, housekeeping. We do have some housekeeping. Update on the listener wars here in the U.S. Well, by the way, we do have listeners all over the world. I don't want to be like, it's just all about the U.S. But we do have far and away the most listeners in the U.S. And our state listenership really spread during the holidays, which was amazing. But I don't want like our listeners in the U.K. and Canada and stuff to think that I don't love them. Washington State has held strong as our second highest listenership state, like since we started, but not anymore.
Oh,
yeah. It has been unseated. It's dropped to fourth place behind Florida and Illinois.
Oh, that's right.
Florida really surged over the holidays. California is first by a long shot. It always has been. But I wanted actually to shout out certain cities this time because I thought that would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
So our top listenership cities like that are really smashing it are far and away number one, Los Angeles, top dog.
Nice.
Thank you, LA. Tell your celebrity friends and celebrity enemies. Next up are Miami, Chicago, Seattle, Houston. Dallas is also on the map, but Houston is a little higher. Las Vegas, DC, Portland, Maine, and Manchester, New Hampshire.
Wow.
Thank you to all of you. I know we've kind of been like talking about it as it was happening, but like really we quadrupled our numbers in December. It's crazy.
It's amazing.
But, you know, you haven't really been coming over to the Patreon or the Instagram or reviewing us. So my birthday wish is that you do one of those things right now. Pause, or if you can multitask, keep listening and go follow us on Patreon, follow us on Instagram, or rate and review us on the platform where you're listening right now. That's my birthday wish. Go do that. Also, remember, if you have something we can ruin, you can email us at nowitsruined@gmail.com. Okay, before we get to the meat of the episode, Erica retroactively sent us her list of people that she wants to fight in a parking lot in a Denny's in Hell. Erica has studied 3 different kinds of martial arts and fought in tournaments. She said Larkin can confirm I'm an elegant lady that is as big as a house.
Can confirm.
So she said the below will go down fast in a short fight where a fucking tranny embarrasses them immensely. Those are Erica's words as a trans woman. I'm not saying that word. 1, Stephen Miller.
Yep.
2, Elon Musk.
Yep.
3, any current / previous leaders of the evangelical church. Wow, she really...
And I like that.
It's a broad stroke. 4, her great uncle Bobby, who is not famous, but canonically a bad person in her family. So infamous. And 5, Charles Boycott, which was... It's a good one.
It is a good one.
With that, I'll hand things over to Larkin.
On the bed with our friends. Not alone this time.
Yeah, in the bed with your friends.
With your friend.
With Colin Hanks.
With Colin Hanks watching.
Oh, wait, I think that counts. We mentioned him.
Okay.
Let's put a quarter in the jar.
Tink.
Yay.
So this episode, the topic has been something that has been on my mind for a while. It is a painful story revolving around the treatment of birthing people, their bodies, their agency and lack thereof, and the history of medical understandings of female reproductive organs.
Great.
Yeah. Just a real light topic for your birthday.
Thank you.
It involves the defamation of a previously revered white man and a revision and correction to history, giving back the story to the actual authors of it and the people who suffered for it. All things we like here on this podcast.
Mm.
We have touched on the horrors of female reproductive health in Kate's episode on chainsaws. Go have a listen if you would like to be sick. Now it is my turn to talk about it and about the really upsetting history surrounding the development of female body medicine. So today I'm going to talk about the history of gynecology. Gynecology is, by definition, the field of medicine focused on the treatment and health of female reproductive organs. And I'm sure many people listening who have female reproductive organs are thinking, Larkin, we know how bad this area of medicine is already. It is fraught with misinformation, criminally understudied and misunderstood. It isn't prioritized in research or even in discussion. People with female organs have no voice in this discourse either. There seems to be no time for us, no funding, no interest, laughed at, discounted, devalued. It doesn't need ruining, you all may say. And to that I say, unfortunately, yes, it does.
Oh.
And yes, I will. This episode comes with a pretty big trigger warning. I will be talking about some pretty severe mistreatment of vagina-owning people. There are some descriptions of medical procedures that are gruesome and upsetting, so be warned. Also, I would like to restate that trans women are women. Yes, gender is a social construct. I realize that the term woman or women is going to not accurately represent the gender of all of our listeners when discussing gynecology. I would like to say that I see all of you uterus or vagina or breast owning persons out there and acknowledge that you are a part of this conversation. Kate and I want everyone who listens to this podcast to feel included, and we will continue to learn and do our best.
Absolutely. And if we ever say something that you're like, hey, that's not right or that's not the current thing,
Call us out on it.
please do. Reach out. Let us know. We'll apologize. We'll fix it and we'll be better.
So to start, obstetrics, the medical field concerning pregnancy and reproductive health alongside gynecological study, has been around for a lot longer than we presume or think about. The earliest reference to the study of gynecology was largely understood to be attributed to the Greeks, seeing as how the word gynecology is derived from the Greek gynekeia and later the Latin gynacia. I mean, that might be gynekeia.
Oh, got it.
Probably, yeah, gynekeia and gynacia, loosely meaning of or pertaining to women or women's things.
Women's things. I'm going to start referring to my vagina as my woman's thing. It's my woman's thing. I had the pleasure of getting an abnormal pap smear for Christmas. That was fun.
And I thought about that while writing this.
Yeah, literally Christmas Eve, my gynecologist called me and was like, hey, we got to schedule you for a colpo. And I was like, great. And for those of you who don't know, colposcopy is a very pleasant procedure where they basically take a melon baller to your cervix. So really excited for that in a week or two. But it's like mild micelle weirdness. We're probably fine.
We're okay. I'm saying we're okay.
Yeah, we're definitely fine. It's not definitely, but we're probably fine. If it hadn't been the year that 2025 was, I would not have been worried about it.
Right.
But we're getting the colpo in the beginning of 2026. I have faith.
It's going to be fine.
The first time I got one, though, I was like in my early 20s. And I just want to say that like there are certain jobs that I think you should have to prove that you can talk and work at the same time in order to do, or you should be disqualified from them. Because it's also the only time I've had a male gynecologist.
Oh, no.
And he kept stopping what he was doing and leaning back to talk to me.
No.
For like a minute and a half at a time.
No.
I'm the speculum's in, I'm open.
No.
He's been poking around already. And then he just leans back to tell me about like the research his uncle did with raccoons. I'm like, I can't deal with this. And there was a woman in the room who was like the nurse or like the physician's assistant or whatever. She was required to be there as like, you have to have a woman there. I kept making eye contact with her and she just was looking at me like, so sorry.
I'm so sorry. This shouldn't be happening to you. And I'm sorry it's happening.
But seriously, like ditto for dentists. Like if my mouth is propped open and you're like doing weird shit to my teeth.
Or asking questions like, how's your day? And you're like,
yeah. If you're inside one of my holes,
no.
Stop talking.
Stop talking.
Or talk and work at the same time.
You got to get out of there faster than you are.
Yeah.
No, that's perfectly in line with what I was about to say, because I was like, this is not one of those episodes where I can be like, and how does this topic affect you, Kate? Because of course it does on a daily basis. And really it affects everyone. Birthing bodies birth people, which is something we are all a part of and something we should care about. And there are so many of us with female reproductive parts with disproportionately understudied healthcare. The study of female reproductive systems can be dated as far back as approximately 1825 BC. in a collection of ancient Egyptian medical texts. The section of the manuscript was later dubbed the Kahun Gynecological Papyrus. This was an extensive medical text as described in a medical paper on the subject by a Dr. Edward W. Jenks called The Practice of Gynecology in Ancient Times, published sometime in 1800. I say that because there really isn't much I could find about this guy. First of all, the W stands for Waltrus or Waltrus.
Waltrus? Waltrus Jenks?
Waltrus Jenks.
Hot.
Yep.
I'm picturing him as a walrus.
Yes, that's immediately where you go with it. Like Wilford Brimley style. My name is
With the
Waltrus Jenks.
with a stethoscope
Yeah,
and a
yeah.
lab coat. Yeah.
Open up your Winnie's thing. You've got diabetes. There just isn't any available information on the man. According to the citation of his authorship on these papers, he was an MD and an LLD, or Doctor of Law. Again, I don't know because there isn't even a Wikipedia on him that I feel like sure about. But there is a very small article in the University of Michigan Library Archives that mentions him. He helped found the Detroit Medical College, later to become its president, and taught as a professor of obstetrics and diseases of women. He was also a surgeon of women's diseases? Question mark. And also a consultant of women's disease surgery.
All these women's diseases.
I mean, it was an old article,
Yeah.
like 1870s old. But what are you even talking about?
Because you know they're not talking about like PCOS and like
Mm-mm.
actual like women's disease,
Women's diseases.
hysteria.
Exactly. And that's why I love it, because it's like it hasn't even gotten much better. He's, I don't know, some sort of lady disease surgeon. Anyway, I read his article about gynecology. In this article, he talks about the Egyptian texts being meticulously separated into different medical categories. 6 of such sections or books were particularly noted by ancient Greek scholars, namely Alexandrinus, one on anatomy, one on surgery, another on disease, one just about eyes, one on medicinal drugs, and one entirely devoted to what keeps being referred to as female disease. The Egyptians laid the foundation for Greek and Roman studies, which were all male-dominated, as they were the scholars, writers, and important minds of the time. Before the advent of universities, the philosophers, and early scientists, childbirth was a very communal affair. The birthing people of a community would all get together to aid in a birth using methods and medicines passed down from generation to generation. While women remained as midwives and were accepted as such, they were no longer the experts and were pushed to the background.
Mm.
Oh my God, but of course. This shift meant that women began to quickly lose agency over their own health, and the complexities of childbirth and the care of female anatomy became oversimplified, especially in the context that the male authors of educational texts were like, let's keep this really, really simple so that these sweet little dum-dum ladies will understand and not get too tired reading it.
Oh,
Which was a real thing for Musio, a highly influential author of the 4th century AD. He was very concerned about that.
he was worried the ladies were going to get too tired from reading the medical text.
Yes.
Wow.
And he was the one who worked the most on the work Gynecia, the like big.
Great fundamental understanding of women to start with.
Right. If it's too complicated, they'll get too tired and bored, even though they know what they're doing already. But
Right.
that's besides the point. And now comes the long marching line of men who were the pioneers of understanding woman disease. Yep, saddle up. Just relax. She's melted.
I want it.
She's fading away. Hippocrates is pretty undisputably
Right.
the first of these, which comes as no real surprise since he's the father of medicine and all. He wrote about the Egyptians extensively and praised their medical understanding. Both he and Herodotus were apparently quite impressed by who they claimed to be true physicians, which to me is just so obnoxious. It means we've just always done this patronizing thing of looking at ancient cultures and being like, look at what they achieved. They were able to build a working inner city water system, even though they were stupid and had no culture. Just incredible.
Do you know anything about like who in the Egyptian culture was in charge of writing? Like, was it women? Because Egyptian culture was a lot, I don't want to say a lot more egalitarian, but was more egalitarian and less patriarchal by a little bit at least.
The writings, I don't know if they were shared, but Waltrus
Jenks.
does mention that from his studies, it seemed that though it started as the purview of men. It came into the hands of women
Oh, okay.
in Egypt.
That's interesting. But then, of course, all these dudes are going to come along
Yep.
and just fucking erase
Erase it.
that
Yeah.
fact. Okay, fantastic.
He
That's
was
what
the
I
only
thought.
one who's really seemed to mention that it became a woman's field.
Okay, Waltress.
Yeah.
All right.
Back to my list of men who know more about vaginas than you do.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
Hippocrates had a body of work called the Hippocratic Corpus, in which he talks a little bit about female reproductive health, including his reflections on things like menstruation and uterine prolapse. Though this was like 400 BCE, so not really sure what his ideas for treatment or anything would be for that.
Balance your humors.
Well, yes, we get into that. But really, he did provide the building blocks for what is now known as systemic care, basically holistic care, taking into account all of the body's systems and looking at them as a whole. His weird theory about what he dubbed the humors, you know, the theory that the body is healthy when the 4 humors are balanced, which are, of course, the 4 bodily fluids: blood,
Yes.
naturally; phlegm, sure; yellow bile,
Yes.
and black bile. Uh-oh.
That's the one. Uh-oh. Black bile is probably, do you know? Is it like blood and dark blood? Or
Probably
it's
the
in your
gross blood. I don't know.
poop?
Maybe it's poop. But that would be super gross because he also diagnosed his patients by tasting their different fluids. He's got to see if it tastes okay. Yeah.
And he was like, I can taste. If the humors are off.
Yeah.
Like, that's good yellow bile.
That's good. Your phlegm tastes okay now. Yeah. And he's the father of medicine, whatever.
You know what? If you're going to be willing to taste everybody's fluids, you can have it.
Sure.
You can be the father of medicine.
I don't know about that. I think you should be put somewhere. This theory of the humors, however strange and gross, along with his recommendations regarding nutrition and diet during pregnancy, opened the door to the concept of treating the body as a multifaceted system, along with the notion that by treating the body as a whole, you can treat a specific malady. Next up, we have Soranus of Ephesus.
Ooh. I'm sure he's an asshole, but I like Soranus of Ephesus.
He's got a fancy name.
That's a fun thing to say.
That's a fun
Rolls off the tongue. Soranus of Ephesus.
He's the guy who influenced Musio and the Roman quote-unquote expert on childbirth, apparently. And I love the idea of any man walking into a room where someone is giving birth and the birthing person just goes, oh, so you're the expert, huh?
Yeah.
Just great.
How many times have you done this?
And he's like, yeah, I wrote the manual on it, because he did. He wrote a manual on it for midwives to use.
Okay.
He is credited with the perfection of the podalic version technique used in the event of a breech birth, where the baby is upside down and involves reaching in and physically flipping the baby.
Wow, what a genius.
He's a genius. And I know I've said something like this in your Chainsaws episode, but there were definitely women doing this already.
100. Yes.
Yeah.
There had to have been.
Real midwives. You didn't come up with that.
No.
You just gave it a fancy name, you twat.
Our population with our shitty birth canals could not have possibly reached where it was in the age of like the Egyptians and the Roman Empire and the Greeks if women had not already been doing shit like this.
No.
And
Ephesus wrote the manual on it, so there's that. Then there was Galen, also of Rome, with his early anatomical depiction of the uterus and ovaries, which he gathered from dissecting animals, and which became the playbook for gynecologists that followed. But he is also often attributed to conjuring up that weird concept of the wandering womb. So,
wait, did you look at the do we know what the pictures, like what his depiction looked like?
No, I didn't find any actual old.
Because you gotta imagine that animal uteruses
they're a little different.
Yeah.
Yep.
Depending on the animal, but
they're quite a lot different.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he couldn't be slicing up people yet.
Oh, what about dead people? Like,
oh, we get into that.
Okay. But like, you don't want to cut open one dead lady and look inside her and see. Anyway, okay.
But it's also speculated that the wandering womb thing could have been Aristeas, who lived at the same time as Galen and who also studied and wrote about obstetrics and gynecology.
Okay.
According to Jenks, both scholars made maybe the earliest references to the use of a speculum. And this isn't entirely relevant, but I like that Jenks mentions that the Romans didn't like the Greeks,
Oh.
so were kind of catty about it in their writing. Roman writer Celsus sarcastically talks about the Greeks being overly interested in the study of genitals because obviously they dealt with more genital disease.
Oh.
I know. Really rude. Now jump to the 1500s, and we have Ambroise Paré, French physician and barber surgeon of the Renaissance. And yes, I will talk about what I just said because I was very taken aback when I read it. A barber/surgeon?
Yeah.
Surely that is not what it means. Apparently, yes, that is what it means. And I feel like I should have known about this. The humble beginnings of the barber surgeon take place in the Dark Ages in monasteries, where monks had to keep a clean-shaven head, both for sanitary purposes and religious reasons. This meant they had to have a trained barber available at all times. Because they were trained to be adept at wielding sharp instruments, they were the ones who did the bloodletting stuff. At the time, a way to get rid of diseases and, again, bad humors, you know?
Right.
It's your gross blood. Get it out of there.
Yeah.
But
Which
this,
actually maybe is true of me.
of you with your
now.
iron problem.
Yeah, I just found out I have an excess of iron. I always thought I had a deficiency. Yeah, apparently one of the ways you treat it is you just get blood taken out of you occasionally. So I'm like, am I about to buy some leeches?
Leeches or get a monk in here.
Get blood into a porcelain bowl? Like
yeah.
a Jane Austen character?
Precisely. And I hope that's what you do.
I hope so too.
This progressed into actual surgical procedures, and they were the ones entrusted with this field, not actual physicians of the time, because their early version of the Hippocratic Oath warned that they didn't know enough to do it, the actual doctors. They performed surgery on soldiers, filled the ever-increasing need for surgical interventions that doctors couldn't perform. Eventually, they were enveloped into the nobility, where they were readily available to the wealthy elite to perform surgery, amputations, and haircuts.
Great.
And I'm so annoyed because was I supposed to know this? Demon Barber of Fleet Street, one of my favorite musicals ever. And
well, no, he wasn't also a surgeon, but
No,
I did know
but
about
it's a
this.
whole-
Yeah, that's a funny
It's a play on.
little bit of the Dark Ages.
All right, necessary tangent aside, Ambroise Paré was one of these and has even been referred to as the father of modern surgery. A lot of fathers in this episode.
Yes, of course.
Not ironic at all. Paré was a showman and seemingly very into himself, as his best-selling work on obstetrics and gynecology was titled simply The Works of Ambroise Paré.
Oh.
And apparently his work was groundbreaking in the world of obstetric surgery. I guess he also is credited for introducing tooth implants, artificial limbs, and artificial eyes, which were made of silver or gold.
Okay.
Now, in the 1700s, we have, get ready, William Smellie.
Oh, poor
Mhm.
guy.
No, you're not going to feel that way.
Okay.
You're going to, no. He was a Scottish obstetrician. Smellie was the first to teach obstetrics and midwifery as a science. He would help deliver babies for free to poor mothers. And I was like, oh, but no.
Oh.
This was only if they agreed to let his students watch or help. He is credited with redesigning the forceps for obstetric use, apparently making deliveries much safer. He also wrote a treatise on the theory and practice of midwifery, considered to be the first true OBGYN user manual. Because birthing people are just like cars. The article I used for this list of men, which gives a beautiful outline and was very helpful from a medical education site, just seems to have a real hard-on for all of these guys. Referring to this manual, they literally write that it was, quote, packed with tips on handling tricky births.
That's like a fucking review of a cookbook.
Yeah. Or like a food blog.
Yeah.
Like
Packed with tips.
Packed with tips.
How to make the perfect quiche. Wow.
Yeah. But this is where you start to believe me when I told you I could ruin gynecology for you.
Okay.
Smellie
and
his counterpart, William Hunter, were likely responsible for the deaths of, to quote historian Don Shelton, a, quote, total greater than the combined murders committed by Burke and Hare and Jack the Ripper.
Yikes.
According to a publication in the Journal of the Royal Society of Medicine, as many as 40 women, along with their unborn babies, lost their lives to what is called burking, the practice of murder in order to procure cadavers to be used most often for medical research. And cadavers of pregnant people were few and far between. So Smellie and Hunter separately from each other, sought to procure such cadavers with the help of henchmen and by soliciting murder.
Jesus Christ.
I know. According to Shelton, quote, the circumstantial literary evidence suggests that they were most likely competing with each other in experimenting with secret cesarean sections on unconscious or freshly murdered victims with a view to extracting and reviving the babies.
So they were like, never mind about the we just want to try and find a good way to get.
Yep.
Whoa. Mm-mm.
And while doing so, get better, more accurate, like, drawings and ideas of anatomy.
Jesus. I can't believe I didn't come across that when I was looking into C-sections.
C-sections, yeah.
But
and I'll tell you why. Because you had to look for it.
wow.
Yeah, okay. Many of those murdered would have been in the later stage of pregnancy, at a time when people disappearing was a common occurrence, but the murder of pregnant people or even the natural death of pregnant people was not a common occurrence. It simply does not add up how these guys acquired as many of these cadavers as they did. It was simply not a realistic supply. And while this is all circumstantial evidence, it is very compelling. Staunch disbelievers of the claims, people who don't want to give up on the historic pillars, that these men were placed upon, might say, well, they probably didn't know where the bodies were coming from. But birking was a lucrative business at the time, and people in the medical field were well aware of its thriving existence and even its arguable necessity. So I find it highly unlikely that either of these Williams simply were ignorant to the source of their pregnant cadavers. You would also have to admit that your heroes were just stupid.
Oh, right. Either you don't know your field as well as you think you do, because then you should know that this kind of death is not as frequent as the number of bodies you're getting, or you fucking know.
You know. If that's not enough circumstantial evidence, there were rumors being spread that they were murdering people at the time. Like their counterparts, their contemporaries, their peers. And when they were confronted by these peers, they stopped their research.
Come on.
So
they weren't like, no, that's not how it's happening. They were just like, we better quit.
We better quit. No, don't. Well, I can't show them the sources. I can't tell you where they're getting it from. So we'll just stop.
Jesus.
And this would have been 1755, but it appears that Hunter, having powerful friends, started back up again in 1764. But he was more careful, limiting himself to one murder per year. And Hunter has a museum in Glasgow named after him, and Smellie has often been referred to as the father of British midwifery.
Good Lord. Ugh.
And I can't tell you how coincidental, this is in response to what you were saying earlier, it was so coincidental that I even came across this information. I honestly just wanted to know where Smellie was from. And I just happened to look down and see an NIH title with the word murder in it, and was like, what's that? And it was a very vague abstract on a medical journal about it. And I couldn't, it was just alluding to it and not really making much sense. And I was like, okay, what's this about? And I found another medical journal that alluded to it again, very vague allusions. And I was like, okay, I have to look this up. But I actually had to look for
dig.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Busting stuff open here on Now
Wide
It's Ruined. Whoa.
I'm a journalistic.
You are
a genius. These are just some of the men dubbed the pioneers or fathers of this field, and I'm not going to go into all of them.
No.
But we will talk about Dr. James Marion Sims, the so-called father of modern gynecology, another father of female reproductive health, another villain in the story of gynecological history. We are now in America, and it is 1813. J. Marion Sims, fighting in the Denny's, is learning to be a doctor at Jefferson Medical College in Philadelphia. And you guys, every little thing I encountered researching this just uncovered more and more insane shit. Another random coincidence, I literally wanted to know where Jefferson Medical College was, and discovered that there was a huge scandal concerning the college and grave robbing for cadavers in 1882.
Oh my God.
The original article I was reading about Sims avoided this entirely. Body snatching was a pretty normal thing in the 18th and 19th centuries, as, we have established, as the need for cadavers for dissection simply couldn't be met, as these medical schools were popping up everywhere. And as the number of medical schools increased, so did the demand for bodies. This black market trade employed body snatchers that came to be known as sack 'em up boys. Super cool.
No.
And go ahead and guess which group of people were almost exclusively targeted, especially in the South.
Ugh.
And if you guessed people of color, you would be miserably correct. Lacking the social protections of wealthier groups, Black communities were disproportionately targeted. They were poor, had no social standing or voice, and their graveyards tended to be more isolated and vulnerable.
Oh, right. Ah,
Usually in the outskirts of town.
right.
In 1882, 3 men were caught digging up bodies in an African-American cemetery. They admitted that they were digging them up to sell to Jefferson College under the direction of William S. Forbes, a well-respected anatomist who taught there. While the 3 grave robbers were convicted, Forbes received no punishment whatsoever, claiming that he had no idea where the bodies came
Oh
from,
my God.
and went on to continue his lucrative career. But I'm trying to talk about this bastard Sims, and I keep uncovering more horrific crimes. I'm tired of this, Grandpa. So, J. Sims is learning to be a doctor in 1813, which is nothing even close to the kind of training that doctors undergo nowadays. Sims' training entailed a brief internship, a 3-month course, and a 1-year at Jefferson,
Oh, okay.
after which he just went ahead and started practicing in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Wow.
He ended up relocating, however, to Montgomery, Alabama after his first 2 patients died.
God.
And Montgomery is where he made a name for himself, treating the slaves of wealthy plantation owners.
Ugh.
He had a hospital built in the trading district there, the human trading district. Enslaved people were brought to him for more difficult or serious procedures where they would get more effective care than they would normally on the plantations themselves. Because you need your slaves to be productive, but also reproductive. This facility is what became essentially the first women's hospital in the United States. So slave owners started bringing their slaves to Sims and simply handing over temporary ownership to him if they paid the taxes necessary and provided clothing. Basically, they were leasing them to him.
Right.
In his autobiography, masterfully titled The Story of My Life,
What a dumbass.
I fucking hate him so much, Sims reminisces fondly about the convenience of owning your own test subjects. He writes, quote, "There was never a time that I could not at any day have had a subject for operation, and that it was the most memorable time of his life."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put him on my
him
list
on
too.
your list,
Fucking
yeah.
God damn it. Ugh.
As soon as Erica hears this, it's going on her list as well.
We're all going to punch James Sims.
We'll just take turns.
Yes.
We know the names of 3 patients who suffered under his so-called care over the course of this most memorable time. We know them simply as Lucy, Betsy, and Anarcha. And we only know about them because of James Sims' own records. And Sims didn't start out wanting to treat women, nor did he have any real gynecological training at all.
No, you don't say. The 3-month course didn't cover. What do you cover in 3 months? Like,
And then a year
it's
at
a
Jefferson?
week about
It's a
the
week
head,
about-
and then a week about coughs. I don't know.
I don't know.
Like, what the fuck? There's no room for gynecology in there for
Mm-mm.
sure.
No room at all. No business doing any of this.
No. Get out. Go home.
He considered the treatment of female parts icky and gross, offensive to even suggest, really, saying, quote, "If there was anything I hated, it was investigating the organs of the female pelvis."
Wow.
Uh-huh. So definitely that's what you should be doing as a career.
Yeah, perfect. Great. It seems really in your zone of genius.
Yeah. And this was a sentiment shared by most of his peers. However, one day he was presented with the case of a woman who had fallen from her horse. She was otherwise uninjured, but began to experience serious pelvic and back pain. And here I took a direct quote from this article. Quote, "To treat this woman's injury, Sims realized he needed to look directly into her vagina." End quote.
His nightmare.
Uh-oh. You're gonna have to look directly at it, Sims.
I don't want to look right at it. I don't want to look at your stupid penis either.
I don't want to look at your face. Realizing he had to look directly into this vagina,
The women's thing. You gotta
woman's
look right
thing.
at it.
Gotta look into it. He decided that the best way to do this would be to have her get down on her hands and knees, elbows really, so he could use his hands to look inside of her. Which is apparently what sparked his idea to create an early version of a speculum. It was a pewter spoon bent twice.
Oh, so you just wedge it.
From this examination, He was apparently able to determine that the woman had a retroverted uterus, which is where the uterus, which normally tips forward towards the abdomen, tips backward away from the abdomen toward the spine.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it can be very painful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sims was able to correct it with his fingers using the positioning of her on her knees and elbows called the genupectoral or knee chest position. This sparked an idea in Sims that he could maybe use this position to treat vesicovaginal fistulae. A vesicovaginal fistula, vesico meaning bladder, fistula meaning hole,
Oh, no.
or obstetric fistula, is a wound or tear between the bladder and vagina.
Ooh.
Which causes urine to leak continuously into the vagina.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's a bad time.
It's horrible. And it is most commonly caused by obstetric or gynecological injury or surgery. An obstetric fistula, most often caused by an obstructed labor, which can be excruciatingly long and traumatic to the vaginal wall, can cause either bladder leakage or bowel leakage.
Oh.
Yeah. Basically, if a fetus cannot pass through the birth canal, its head can become lodged against the pelvic bones, cutting off blood flow from surrounding tissues. The dead tissue then sloughs away later, creating a hole.
Ew.
Yeah.
Yikes.
It can cause abdominal, pelvic, and back pain
Yeah.
and makes intercourse understandably excruciating.
Oh, God. Oh.
The most common complication is the recurrence of the fistula.
Oh.
And back then, likely infection and isolation, as there would be no effective way to stem the constant leakage of urine or feces.
Ugh.
And constant contact against the skin would cause damage and sensitivity. So that whole area would just be raw.
Oh, my God.
George Hayward, a contemporary of Sims, also a piece of shit, described examination of fistula patients as extremely difficult due to extreme sensitivity of the genitals and surrounding areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, like almost nearly impossible.
Oh, my God. My parts don't feel nice.
They don't feel good?
No.
As I mentioned earlier, slave owners needed their enslaved people healthy enough to make more enslaved people. Being able to reproduce meant a person was what was referred to as sound, and a fistula meant you weren't sound, which is no good. So we have to fix that, but there is no way to repair this at the time, which is now 1845. So Sims decides to start experimenting. And remember, he has a hospital now, and the perfect patient laid up in one of the 8 beds there, suffering from an obstetric fistula. He put her name down in his records of that day as Betsy, and it was on his way back to the hospital that he picked up his pewter spoon with which he would fashion his new tool. He went on to use his brilliant new cutlery device in numerous procedures, births, and surgeries to much acclaim. He would later become the president of the American Medical Association in 1876.
No.
And then the founder and president of the American Gynecological Association. American doctor W.O. Baldwin, apparently a very dramatic man, wrote that Sims' speculum, quote, has been to diseases of the womb what the printing press is to civilization, what the compass is to the mariner, what steam is to navigation, what the telescope is to astronomy. End quote.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
All at the expense of enslaved, impoverished, and differently abled women. Irish immigrant women and women from asylums were also subjects of these torturous experiments over the course of gynecological history, as they were also viewed as disposable, lesser humans, and easily accessible. But the person Sims was referring to, laid up in his makeshift hospital, was Lucy, not Betsy. Though she also suffered from an obstetric fistula, Sims had sent Betsy back with her enslaver after an examination proclaiming her a lost cause. And this is based off of Sims' own records, and the discrepancy indicates his unreliability as a narrator and really how little he cared.
Right. You don't even care to know her
No, he just mixed them
name.
up.
He wrote about her
Yes.
with the entirely wrong name. So he
Entirely
could have double-checked himself and been like, oh, shit.
Oh, but I'm talking about
Actually,
this
per my-
examination that I did that day, but it wouldn't have been Betsy because she wasn't here.
right, per my own records,
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
I'm wrong. But he did not care to go back and check. I want to put
Spoon speculum in his butthole?
yeah, I really
Yeah.
do. Can we say that? Yeah, we can.
Yeah,
It's our
why not?
podcast.
Yeah. We can talk about putting spoonculums.
Spoonculums. Come here, I'm going to put a spoonculum in here, you piece of shit. Lucy was the first experimental subject for his reparative surgery. She was only 18 at the time, and likely she did not consent. More realistically, she was unable to consent, not being in a position to say no. Sims had actually refused to treat Lucy initially. Like Betsy, he was about to send her away, but, and here I must really quote Monica Cronin from her excellent article on the subject, now in possession of his pewter spoon speculum, Sims wanted to examine her once again. Sims writes that Lucy, quote, willingly consented to his examination and in his own words described how, introducing the bent handle of the spoon, he saw everything as no man had seen before. The fistula was as plain as the nose on a man's face.
Yeah. Spoonculum to the butthole and
Immediately.
my fistula right in there.
Yep. Right in. Yeah.
I'm going to punch the spooncula
I'm going to make,
with my fistula.
I'm going to shake Kate's hand out the other end.
Oh my God.
All right. Here's the first big trigger warning.
Uh-oh. Wait, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. Identical to his exam method, Sims had Lucy get down on all fours, elbows to the ground and head on her hands, completely naked, because that's necessary.
Right.
Several doctors attended the hour-long surgery and looked on as Lucy screamed in pain for an hour, without anesthetic, without any pain medication. Regarding the lack of anesthetic, Sims writes, quote, the poor girl on her knees bore the operation with great heroism and bravery. According to Sims, Lucy's agony was extreme, and she contracted blood poisoning as a result of this torture because Sims used a sponge to drain her bladder, a controversial method that nearly killed her. Ugh. Sims writes, quote, I thought she was going to die. It took Lucy 2 or 3 months to recover entirely from the effects of the operation, end quote. 12 months later, ether was successfully being used as an anesthetic, and 7 months after that, everybody knew about it. Yet Sims refused to use it for the entirety of his years-long experiments.
Wow.
Yeah. Pregnancy and birth would have been difficult and dangerous for enslaved birthing people. According to biological anthropologist Patricia Lambert, quote, nutritional deficiency diseases such as rickets, scurvy, pellagra, and iron deficiency anemia are thought to have been common in enslaved communities. In 1845, at the age of 17, Anarcha was pregnant and enduring a very difficult delivery. It is very likely that she was nutrient deficient, maybe even suffering from rickets, which could cause the pelvis to be malformed and result in obstructed birth. By this time, the transatlantic slave trade had been outlawed for years, meaning that no new enslaved people were being brought overseas. So the burden of producing new bodies to enslave fell to the birthing bodies of enslaved people, most commonly referred to as breeders. It took 3 days of Anarcha suffering a painful labor before help was actually called for. And it came in the form of Sims.
Ugh.
Sims delivered Anarcha's baby with forceps that he had no experience and no business using, putting Anarcha and the infant in serious danger. According to him, the baby's head, quote, was so impacted in the pelvis that the labor pains had mostly ceased. Anarcha lived, but we do not know the fate of her baby. The traumatic and prolonged labor caused several fistulae, her condition described by Sims as hopelessly incurable. But this didn't stop him from experimenting on her.
Great.
Anarcha was subjected to 30 of Sims' experimental procedures over the course of 5 years.
Oh.
All without anesthesia, as Sims operated under the belief, shared by many, that Black people simply just don't experience pain like white people do.
As they're fucking screaming. Like, there is no way that these women are not just... He said it himself that she was
Screaming in agony. Just on all fours, being operated on for hours. This pervasive and contradictory belief is something that DEIRDRE Cooper Owens outlines in her award-winning book titled Medical Bondage, Race, Gender, and the Origins of American Gynecology. It's a tough read, but well worth it if any of you are interested. A historian, professor, author, lecturer, and reproductive justice advocate, Owens is a true badass. In her book, Owens explains the dichotomy of this long-standing notion that Black women are somehow not as intelligent as white women, yet more resilient, durable, and impervious to pain. Enslaved women were forced to live in a world of contradictions, simultaneously hypersexualized and masculinized, treated as inferior, but also strong enough and similar enough to white women to be experimented on for the benefit of white women. Owens refers to this concept with her own term, medical superbodies, and uses it to describe the contradictions rooted in the use of Black bodies to further science. Her use of the term is, quote, intentionally messy, ambiguous, and contentious because Black women's entrance into gynecology proved complex for white doctors, who viewed them through an optical microscope using only two lenses, simplicity and complication. How could these women be both healthy and sick, strong yet rendered weak by the treatments and surgeries they endured? And ultimately, why were Black bodies, which contained conflicting messages about their physical prowess and intellectual inferiority, positioned as the exemplars for pioneering gynecological surgical work that was to ultimately restore allegedly biologically superior white women to perfect health, end quote. Owens also points out the contradiction of physicians writing about methods of restraining enslaved patients during childbirth and surgery. If they were impervious to pain,
Right.
why would you need to restrain them?
Right.
How does your brain work?
And I'm sorry, I don't believe for a second that these women are not showing other, like, yes, you have to restrain them because I'm sure they are struggling and screaming and I'm sure they are telling you, like, stop. They're using words
Yeah,
to tell you that they are in pain and that feels like you're killing them.
I'm sure.
And it persists to this day. Anyway.
Sure does. This idea that Black bodies are more tolerant to pain extended also to other marginalized groups. As I mentioned earlier, Irish immigrant women were also subjected to these gynecological surgeries, largely without anesthesia. Considered not quite white, Irish people were placed alongside Black people as inferior races. These prejudices, deeply rooted in American gynecology, can be largely attributed to an old medicine model called Unani medicine, derived directly from the doctrines of our good friends Hippocrates and Galen. Unani medicine, Unani meaning Greek, is based on the premise of balancing the body's systems physically, mentally, and spiritually. Unfortunately, these antiquated Greek medical philosophies instilled the notion that people with female reproductive organs were the weaker of the sexes. And this remained even in adaptations of these philosophies to come, and which were used for hundreds of years in Western medicine. In her book, Owens quotes historian Deborah Brunton regarding this medical doctrine. Quote, in Unani medicine, all women were believed to have a natural imbalance in their humors that made their constitution colder and wetter than men.
Ugh.
So I guess don't be cold or wet.
Don't be cold and wet.
Well, they certainly don't.
A bad time. They certainly don't want you to be wet.
No,
Yeah.
that's wrong.
Don't worry, guys who are writing about this. No one's ever been wet for you.
And it was with this base understanding that women were the weaker sex that American doctors strode forward to try and fix them. By the second year of his experimentation, Sims became professionally ostracized.
I'm just like, we're only in year 2 of...
Yeah.
Professionally ostracized is good.
Well, yeah, and it's not for any real legitimate reason.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, like, stop experimenting on human beings, you monster.
Right.
No. It was more like his people in his life, like his brother-in-law, who were mad at him for not spending enough time with his family.
Oh my God.
Or spending too much time and money on the enslaved people he kept captive on his property.
That is not the issue.
That's not the problem. I'm sorry, it's not the problem.
You're spending too much time and
money.
paying too much attention. No, yeah, I agree. He should not be paying.
You shouldn't be.
He should get out of their lives. But like, oh my God. Okay.
But it meant, he didn't have these doctors surrounding him anymore to help him with these procedures.
Right.
Without professional assistance or peers, Sims turned to the subject of his experiments for help. Referring to the enslaved women on the property, he wrote, I cannot depend on the doctors, and so I have trained them to assist me. There are at least 6 or 7 other enslaved women living and working at Sims' facility. It is difficult to be sure about this number as they went unnamed.
Right.
Betsy, Lucy, and Anarcha are the only named subjects. These women were nurses, medical assistants, and they probably knew more about vesicovaginal fistulas than even the most experienced and cited doctors of the time. And don't forget that they were still slaves, expected to perform any and all tasks demanded of them on the property, and they were expected to perform them while being experimented on, suffering immense pain, sick from infection, dying.
And having to experiment on each other.
As slaves in a slave-holding society, there was no real way for these women to refuse assisting Sims in his procedures. In 1852, Sims first published on the treatment of vesicovaginal fistula in the American Journal of Medical Sciences. It was basically just an advertisement for slaveholders to send Sims new experimental subjects. But in it, he described some of the tasks he entrusted to his enslaved nurses, i.e. cleaning instruments for reuse, holding the speculum in place, as well as holding the subject in place, just as you said, meaning they had to hold each other down.
Oh my God.
The way that Sims Hospital worked was a continued cycle of women undergoing procedures, recovering, and assisting. A constant cycle of misery.
Oh my God. And you're like re-traumatizing them as well
Yeah.
in that because they know
What it feels like.
what. Oh my God.
I can't even imagine. I literally can't. He opened another hospital
No.
after his experiments were finished in Montgomery. It was opened in 1855 in New York, the first official women's hospital.
Oh, great.
Yeah, the first official one. He performed procedures here on poor Irish women. One of the first women Sims would go on to torture, Mary Smith, described by Sims as a most offensive and loathsome object, suffered 30 of Sims' procedures over the course of 5 years, all without anesthesia.
What? He's a sadist.
He's a sadist.
Like, there's
Because
no...
later he treats a French woman who is of good standing and wealthy, and he was like, she was the most in his writings. She's so beautiful,
Ew.
so accomplished, so put together. So she got ether.
I just would love to know what she did to indicate how sensitive she was versus
It was
any of
literally
these other women.
just social standing.
That's so ridiculous.
That's in his writing. Like the
Jesus.
contradiction is just right there in your face, and it's so insane.
Ugh.
She was an animal. The Irish woman was this
Object.
loathsome object, and this French woman was a beautiful, wealthy,
sensitive little deer.
Yeah, that really her constitution just required ether. A statue of Sims was erected in New York in 1894, where it stood for almost 124 years.
Glad you said stood, because if that thing was still up, I would be like, we're all going to New York.
No, we're going to Montgomery.
This year. Oh, Montgomery.
In April of 2018, it was finally removed to his burial site to
Oh.
much outcry from local residents, saying it should have been buried with him and that there was no room for symbols of white supremacy in their community. In Philadelphia, his statue was thrown in storage, while the effigy of Sims, the father of gynecology, still stands in front of the Alabama state capitol. A new monument now stands just a mile away called the Mothers of Gynecology. 3 larger-than-life statues depicting Anarcha, Lucy, and Betsy stand tall, never to be looked down on again. Anarcha is the largest of the 3, with a gaping hole in her abdomen, her uterus gone, replaced by just one red rose. Her missing uterus sits nearby, full of glass shards, medical instruments, and needles. Another statue wears a tiara fashioned out of a speculum. The artist Michelle Browder created the monument out of scrap metal to represent how these women were discarded. It is a monument to the continued suffering of Black birthing people because the disparities still remain, as you well know. Per this Smithsonian article in 2022, Black mothers are more than 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related issues than their white counterparts, and are also more likely to experience pregnancy-related complications, be uninsured, and give birth at hospitals with lower quality maternal care. More than 80% of which are preventable, these deaths, per the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. So, that's the story.
Great.
My ending thoughts here, really, for just discussion, since we're sitting right across from each other. The takeaway being this contradiction of Black women being both integral.
All right, just had a heart-stopping moment where the internet cut out right in our final thoughts, and we were like, did we just lose that entire recording that we bothered to do while we were sick? But we didn't. It's fine.
It's fine. We didn't panic.
We're solid and we're cool.
I didn't cry.
You didn't cry.
Which I thought I was going to.
And I feel better because I stood up and walked around.
And worked some of her stuff out. My stuff is worse, but that's
Your
okay.
stuff's worse, but she's going to take more Dayquil in a second. Once we finish these final thoughts.
Final thoughts
you
on
were
this
saying
horrific story, the goal of which, in my mind, being keeping in mind Anarcha, Betsy, and Lucy, and the other unnamed hundreds, if not thousands, of women who were subjected to these torturous experiments. We can bring these women out from under the enormous burden of objectification. These are human beings separate from their mistreatment, from their roles as experimental subjects, and of their enslavement. Deirdre Cooper Owens states that her book, I had to say it because she's great, her book, quote, attempts to repair the gaping fistula and the historiographies of slavery and medicine, just as 19th century doctors did for their patients. And I know I just said, I don't know where we got. Oh, we did get cut off, but the contradiction of being both integral to research while also being disposable, and also the understanding that reproductive medicine was literally essential to the maintenance and success of Southern slavery. And that is what extended it and continued it. I guess those can be conversational pieces if you'd like
If you'd like.
to speak about it.
I mean, yeah, like what a non-shock that so much of reproductive medicine was rooted in, well, in America at least.
Right. Which I do realize in this piece, this doesn't cover the world. The United States did become one of the world leaders in gynecology, mainly to the sacrifices and contributions of Lucy, Anarcha, and Betsy,
Right.
and the other unnamed women alongside them.
Yeah, so I'm sure that these developments affected the developments
world.
in the rest of the world. And
Yeah.
we know a little bit that in other parts of the world, such as Scotland, England,
Yeah.
the UK, all that whole area was also horrific, chainsaws, etc.
Chainsaws, etc.
The Italians were also inventing saws to saw through pubic symphyses.
No, I don't think it was better anywhere else.
Yeah. It's just men barging in and being like, this is our area now.
We
And
know more than you.
Yep.
Because we're smarter.
Right. We can be doctors because we decided we're the ones who can be doctors. The fucking audacity as ever. And I'm just thinking of this. I'm very mad today in the context of like our fucking president being like, we're going to take Greenland and we're going to invade Canada and we've invaded Venezuela and that's our oil that they have. And, we want our stolen oil back. And it's just feels like we're returning to this concept of empire, not that
Yeah.
we ever got that far away from it,
No.
but like it, felt a little less super in our face recently. And now suddenly it's just like, oh yeah, we're going to own the whole Western hemisphere. And it's this exact same attitude and hubris and fucking ego. Well, we know the best about everything and we should be able to own everything, including women's bodies and the way that they are treated. And by the way, we're not even going to do good research
No.
or anything substantive. Like, I mean, PCOS is still critically under research. We don't know anything about it. Like, insurance doesn't cover tons of, here in the United States anyway, doesn't cover a ton of women's issues and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Whereas it'll, if you need boner pills, don't worry about it.
Right, of course.
Like, I have no brilliant insight. Except
Yeah.
that we should listen to women. We should listen to Black women. We should
Yep.
get more representatives of those people in the medical profession. But then also there's talk about like being re-traumatized, seeing someone go through something that you've gone through
Mhm.
that's traumatic. Like it's hard to be in those positions if you are a woman who has been through that. It's like, do you want to help other women, but also it can be very
Re-traumatizing, yeah.
And plus it's just like any male-dominated field is shit to get into. And so, of course, you're going to get driven out more because it's not built for you.
Right.
And you're expected to put up with a lot of bullshit. It just feels like we're going backwards.
And
that we've never moved that far forward
And we
in
never-
this issue in the first place.
after all that sacrifice and that suffering. And it's just, so much of me refuses for that to be true.
Yeah. I mean, I am grateful, I guess, thinking about what I said at the beginning of the episode, which is that I've only ever had one male gynecologist.
Right.
There are a lot of women in that field now, but it still just isn't funded. Like the research isn't funded. It's not supported. It's not taken
No.
an interest in, and it's fucked because men still have a majority of the money. So that's the problem.
Right. And it's harming trans youth and it's harming
Yes.
non-binary youth. And it's just, I'm not okay with that,
Mm-mm. And it's harming Black women, obviously.
Of which carried medicine, human medicine.
Right.
Carried all of it. And what I read was, even though it's improving worldwide, the disparity between Black women's healthcare and white women's healthcare, U.S. is getting worse.
Oh, lovely. That's
It's
great.
getting worse. It's not getting better. It's getting worse here in the land of the free and the land where equal opportunity still exists and everyone's treated equal. Bullshit.
Bullshit. I mean, yeah, that's never been true.
It's never been true.
I didn't read that, I don't think, when I was doing the chainsaws episode. I just remember, again, like, why am I ever shocked by anything? But I was shocked at how at the amount of the disparity. Like
Yeah.
you said, it's 3 times, right?
3 times.
Yeah. I can't remember what percentage I threw out. Go listen to the Chainsaws episode
Yeah,
if you haven't. But like there was a percentage I threw out that I was like, holy shit, how can we possibly be allowing this to happen? It's just like somebody do something. I hate everything.
I do too.
That would be my...
That's my takeaway. And just the recurrent, even in every article that I came across, which every single one, there was a father of this, there was
Yes.
a father of that, there was, and the irony just kept bubbling up in my women parts. And I was getting so, like,
Feel the irony in my woman thing.
I felt it so physically, just getting so irritated. My partner can attest because every 5 minutes I'd be like, oh, another father, this, another. And he would laugh because, yes, these are literally the mothers, the true mothers of this scientific study, which is about birthing people parts.
Yes.
And you're going to come in and be the father of it.
Father of obstetrics is really...
Doesn't it make you want to vomit?
Yes.
I saw somebody post something recently that was like, as a collective whole, all of us female people, I think, are getting so angry that at one point, like, we're just full of bees and a bunch of bees are going to come out of all of our faces.
I wish...
And I'm like, I feel that.
I wish I could just
Eject,
expel
yeah.
bees onto somebody at any given moment. I wish that I had that superpower. That would be amazing.
That'd be incredible.
And I would definitely want to do it right now. I don't know to whom.
Any man that approacheth.
Nate's going to come home and we're going to... Just bees. I mean, as always, I'm like, I always know it's going to be bad. And then it's always somehow worse.
It's worse.
I think I'm as cynical as I can be.
And then somehow
It's worse.
it's worse.
There is something about that position.
Yeah.
That is so vulnerable and demeaning.
And you're
where
forced
like,
to be naked.
Faces in the floor.
Yeah.
You're in that amount of pain being held down by other women that you know have had to... Oh.
And no one stopped him. And it just continued.
And you know no one's coming to stop him. Then delicate little French lady. Not that she shouldn't have had anesthetic.
Right.
I'm just saying, so should all of those other women.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when you don't see people as people.
Yeah.
Why do we do this again?
Yeah, why do we do this? Thanks,
Happy
everybody.
birthday to
Happy
me.
birthday to Kate.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I love you.
I need a new best friend. This is what my best friend does to me on my birthday, as though I didn't ask her
I
to.
was like, you asked me to do this.
All right, well, we love y'all.
Love you.
We're going to go
Die.
die and lie down.